Hello, hello. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Raised on the Farm podcast, where everything is on the table. We really appreciate everyone who tunes in and listens to these episodes. Today, we're talking all about peanuts, so grab your favorite peanut snack and let's get started.
Welcome back to Raised on the Farm podcast. Today, we've got the CEO of the North Carolina Peanut Growers Association, Miss Ashley Collins. How are you doing today, Ashley?
I'm good. Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Good. Glad to be with you. I'm glad to have Marissa with us today, too.
Also present, yes.
Also present. We've been looking forward to talking to you about peanuts, Ashley, and learn a little bit about you. We've had this into planning for maybe a month or two now, and finally here. So Let's dive in. Who is Ashley Collins? So where were you raised, Ashley? Just give us a little background on who you are.
Sure. What a loaded question. That could go in a lot of different directions, but I'll keep it to the basics. So I was originally born Ashley Warlick. I am from Cleveland County, North Carolina, so the western part of the state where they do not. Now, my grandma grew some peanuts in her garden, but we're not talking about large farmer stock production in Cleveland County. So that's where I'm originally from. I went to NC State for college, and ever since then, I've not really, since graduating from NC State in 2005 with an ag ed degree, haven't really lived back in the western part of the state other than since then. I've actually lived in a couple different places. We can talk about that a little more, but I majored in agricultural education while I was at NC State. I tell people that if you'd have cut me open at 18, I would have bled blue and gold. I got bit really hard by the FFA bug and at my high school. And so that was what led me to NC State, was pursuing that particular degree field. And let's see, what else? I obviously very passionate about agriculture. My husband is also in the agricultural industry. He is in cotton, which is a lot of cotton farmers are peanut farmers, a lot of peanut farmers are cotton farmers. So we work with a lot of the same people. He is the cotton specialist for NC State University, and he is actually from Northampton County. So we live somewhat in the middle in Wilson County now. So yeah, I don't know. Am I giving you what you're looking for there on who is Ashley Collins?
Yeah. That's so. Did you ever think that you would end up where you are?
No, so my journey, I had a stint, probably a decade of my life, where I traveled across the country and did presentations about all the different careers that exist in the agricultural industry. And this was not even one of those careers that I talked about. So, this is not the job that somebody comes into your third or your fifth grade class and talks about. And that's what I think is great about agriculture, is that we do have such diversity of careers, things that you would never think exist, and we got to do more to get people educated about those, and then we got to do more to assimilate those people into our industry. But this was absolutely not where I pictured myself. I kind of give you a funny little anecdote of when I mentioned that I've lived in a couple different places. When I was between my junior and senior year in college, I thought I needed to get out of North Carolina to really learn about agriculture, right? I needed to get to the Midwest. So I used a website called JobHog to apply for internships. I remember I stayed home. I stayed in my apartment, didn't go home for Thanksgiving, to just double down on getting an internship.
Oh, wow.
And I applied to CHS and Pioneer Seed at the time, and a couple different. I got some interviews for internships in the Midwest, and none of those actually panned out. I ended up getting an internship in Clinton, North Carolina, and it was with agcareers.com, which is what JobHog originally was, and that's all kind of part of my story. and so I stayed in North Carolina for that internship, but the irony of the fact that I thought that I needed to get to the Midwest to learn agriculture, and I didn't because it was all right here in North Carolina.
Yeah.
But also, when I finished, I did my student teaching out in Asheville, outside of Asheville, at a high school, Clyde A. Irwin. It's in a little town called Lester, and had a phenomenal experience, but committed to go work for, ironically, agcareers.com. And I had to move to Iowa. And so it was, and I tell people in my story that I ugly cried from the time I pulled out of my driveway in Falston, North Carolina, till I got to the Indiana-Illinois border, because I was scared to death. I was just taking what I could fit in my vehicle, and I was moving out there to work for Ag Careers, and I just remember thinking, this is crazy. I tried to do an internship in the Midwest, and it didn't work out, and now I'm having to move here as I'm like sucking up my tears, and so I lived out there for about 6 months before I came back to North Carolina, and that was all kind of part of the deal when I took the job. But I wouldn't trade that 6 months for anything now. And I tell young people all the time, you got to get out of your zip code, you got to get out of your area code, and you got to get out of your time zone. And it was very, that was a great experience. But back in North Carolina, very happy to be back in North Carolina. Then, I'm jumping ahead here in the story, but then when I got married and my husband finished his degree, we moved to South Georgia for 5 years.
Oh.
So, got a little comfortable, got excited to be back in North Carolina, and then moved again. But the ironic part about the South Georgia and where I am now, working in the peanut industry, Georgia is #1 in peanut production and very well known for their peanut production. And the whole time that I lived there, I didn't have anything to do with peanuts other than I drove by a processing plant, like, anytime I went into town. So, just funny way life has a way of working things out, right?
Yeah. I would totally agree with you on leaving your zip code. But also I empathize with you on the ugly crying. So
Yes.
because I moved to Nebraska and Indiana for 7 years, and there was some ugly crying.
Yeah, definitely.
But I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Right. And now it's funny. I want so bad. I beg my husband all the time that I want to take him to the Iowa State Fair. Like, I want to go back. Because I went to the Iowa State Fair when I was there. And it's one of like those 7 things, the 7 wonders of the world that you're supposed to do before you die. And he and I were dating at the time, and he did come visit me while I was out there, but not during the Iowa State Fair. And so, if you would have asked me at 20-some years old, as I was ugly crying, if I was ever going to want to go back and visit after, I would have been like, heck no. But here we are, 20-some years later, and I'm trying to plan a vacation to Iowa.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You say you led Blue and Gold FFA.
Yeah.
So was that from high school in Cleveland County, or when did that bug bite?
Yes. So, I come from a long line of FFA teachers. My great uncle actually started the program that was in my county way back, and my family was in the dairy business, but my papa started that dairy business through his SAE project, which is your supervised agricultural experience, which is something you do through FFA. And my papa always told stories about he went to Kansas City and competed at the national level. And if any of your listeners have FFA history, they know about Kansas City and the transition out of Kansas City to Indianapolis and all that. Well, to Kentucky and then to Indianapolis. But and then I had a cousin who was my ag teacher so I went to Burns High School. There's 4 schools in Cleveland County, and 3 of the 4 have FFA programs. A lot of people are familiar with Crest. They got a pretty successful program going there, and Kings Mountain also has a chapter. But I went to Burns, and I was a chapter officer. I didn't go anything beyond being a chapter officer. I never attended state convention. I didn't do FFA camp or any of those things while I was in high school. But I did do like horse judging, parliamentary procedure team, some of those more like local judging opportunities that I just was like, hey, these are my people. This is what I want to do, and I want to teach this one day, right? Like I want to be. I thought it was so interesting how career and technical education worked, and it was just kind of my clique, and it was very popular. I mean, it is what a lot. I say it was popular. I hope that that's the right word for it. I thought I was popular being in the FFA, so we had a successful program, and I was very grateful for that. So yes, that's what. That's how my blood turned blue and gold. I was all about going into ag education, and later even went on and got a master's degree in ag education as well. But have only been in the classroom to do my student teaching. But I believe that in all of my career journey, I have been a teacher of some sort, and definitely utilized what I learned in ag ed.
So you said that you've come from a long line of ag teachers, and then you went to school for that. Was there ever, I don't know, a pressure that you felt like you needed to be an ag teacher, or was it just, this is it, you knew?
I would say I just knew. I would say there was pressure in the opposite direction, more so. Like my grandmother really wanted me to be a speech therapist or something like that. Which she lived on a dairy farm, and she, unfortunately, a lot of people who are in agriculture don't always have that passion for it, right? And she had married into that, but she just thought you needed to go into the medical field, and she's not wrong. There's a ton of opportunity in the medical field.
Yeah.
But I just knew that's what I wanted to do, was to be an ag teacher, and I can't say that I really pursued anything different. I know when I was in the 7th grade, I thought I wanted to be an engineer, and a teacher that I had at that time, he had me do a job shadow with at PPG, which is a pretty big employer in our area in Cleveland County that's unfortunately shutting down. But I went and hung out with an engineer for one day and was like, no way, I don't want to do this. My ag teacher actually made me go shadow an extension agent for a day. And I really liked that. I had a project that I did on kudzu with that extension agent, but I just always felt drawn back to the classroom. And my student teaching experience, I can't say enough about how positive it was, and I had a phenomenal mentor. And I think that's probably a big reason why I was ugly crying when I chose to not go into teaching and to go do this other thing, because he meant so much to me. But I'm very grateful. I still actually just saw him a couple weeks ago and had dinner, and still a mentor in my life.
Tell us about him. Who is he?
So his name is Michael Joe Holt Sr. Okay. And the reason that I saw him just recently is because for 8 years he ran FFA camp at White Lake, and he and his wife, so that was his retirement gig after he left the classroom. One of his retirement gigs was that he ran FFA camp, which was awesome because I would go visit him there, and I was still getting my FFA cup filled just by hanging out there. And I don't know if either of you went to North Carolina FFA camp, or any of your listeners who've ever gone there kind of may resonate with the camaraderie that's there and the memories that people have of FFA camp. So he did that for 8 years, and then he took a break, but he ran camp for this 2026 summer. So my husband and I went down for an afternoon, evening, and just got to spend some time with him and his wife. He was a phenomenal ag teacher, and had a great program, very heavy in livestock judging. Just a good person. He has a son now who is an ag teacher at that same high school. And he has another son who has taught ag a little bit. And just a big influence in my life and in the ag ed community in North Carolina.
Very cool.
That's special.
Yeah, I'm very grateful. It was unconventional at the time to have somebody from NC State do their student teaching that far west, because they have to send out a advisor from the university to check on you right through that process. And my particular class, I think there were like 28 or 30 of us that were student teaching. It's just a lot of people choose to do it close to Raleigh because you might have like an apartment lease, or you want to stay in that Raleigh bubble. But I was always a mountain girl. Still to this day, I refuse to live east of 95. And so I currently live like literally 2 miles from 95 on the west side. But I really wanted to do my student teaching out that way. And so luckily, myself and 2 other students also chose, which gave enough to justify a supervisor to come out that far. And I have heard that since then, I think there's a good number of the ag ed people from NC State who do student teach in the western part of the state.
Wow. You broke the mold, Ashley.
Well, and I'm sure there was some before me. It just wasn't conventional at the time.
Right. Now, you serve on a few boards, the North Carolina Agricultural Foundation, the North Carolina FFA Foundation, Advisory Board, and is there any others?
Oh.
I'm just trying to look at my notes here. Tell me about these boards, what they mean to you. Just kind of give me a synopsis of that.
Yep. Well, the FFA part I feel like is a little bit, explanatory from everything I've talked about up until this point. I just have a passion for that organization and seeing it to continue. The NC Ag Foundation Board is part of the College of Ag and Life Sciences. It's a large board. A lot of the commodity groups are represented on that, and it's a little bit of like a steering committee for not only the fundraising arm of the College of Ag, but just the academic part as well. I think for me, so when I was at NC State, I worked in Patterson Hall. So I worked for the Ag Institute office specifically as like a student worker, and I also worked in the budget office downstairs. Again, just as a student worker, but it exposed me to that next level of involvement that you need alumni to have, you need your allied partners to have, to really make a collegiate experience whole for the students that it's serving. And so, I think servant leadership is just part of my genetic makeup. And so I say yes to serving on various boards. I sit on the executive committee for the American Peanut Council in my current career. I did a stint on the Cows Alumni and Friends Society for the college. So just, doing those things to pour into people, because I know that someone before me poured into me, or I wouldn't be where I'm at. So that's one of the reasons, I'd say, or something I would say that those boards mean to me. It's just the importance of giving back and being that advocate or providing guidance.
Yeah, sure.
So can we back up for a second, and can you tell us about how you became specific, like how you ended up as CEO of Peanuts? How did that happen?
Well, so this is a bit of a crazy story. So you edit it to cover what you want. I'm going to tell you that I got the job because I interviewed and I was the best candidate for the job, of course. But the way that I applied for the position, the reason that I even sought it out was, I mentioned that I went to work for Ag Careers, and then I went to work for an organization called Agriculture Future of America, which is a whole nother little chapter that we can dig into if you guys want. But in that position, I was on the road a lot. I think I traveled 30 of the 50-some weekends that we have in a year. And it was a lot of weekend travel, and I did love what I was doing, and I was working with college students, young people in the ag space. But I felt, honestly, I was just getting older, and it was time to slow down and be at home a little more. And this position came open, and the way that I learned about it is, so the North Carolina peanut growers have always rented, not always, but for a long time, rented office space to the North Carolina Cotton Producers Association. So I mentioned earlier that my husband is in the cotton industry. So my counterpart in cotton, we knew him very well because my husband is in a unique position that was actually kind of formed by the Cotton Producers Association in the state. So we had a good relationship with him, and I joke and say that he had a vested interest in making sure that his landlord was somebody that he liked. And so my predecessor is a gentleman named Bob Sutter, and he had announced his retirement. And David, who is my counterpart in Cotton, reached out and said, hey, like, I think you might want to look at this position. And so I did, and went through a very strenuous interview process that even kind of blew my mind, which is crazy because I thought, coming from what I did before with Ag Careers and, but like I had to make a video of myself for this position. So yeah, it was very, that was a new strategy. But so that's what got me to the Peanut Growers Association.
Wow.
And what year was that?
That was in 2021.
Okay.
So I just hit my 5-year being in this role for the peanut growers.
That's exciting.
That is.
It is, yeah. And I tell everybody, like, this is, I mean, I hope that I'm always successful in this role and that my board that I work with finds me to be successful, but I don't think I'll ever, I remember when I interviewed for this position, I was asked a question, something about, like, my commitment to being here for a long time. And at the time, a lot of the commodity leaders were similar in age to Bob, who I replaced, and it just, you kind of had the vibe, like, people get these jobs and they stay in them for a really long time. So I hopefully will have a long tenure like that. I also joked, if any of your listeners or people watching know Bob, he has a great head of gray hair. Super thick gray hair. And so that's my only thing is, like, I don't know that I'm striving for the gray hair, but, certainly want to be here for a long time.
Well, tell us about the Peanut Growers Association a little bit. What's your board makeup? How many growers are there? Just give us some basic information.
Some quick facts about peanuts. So the North Carolina Peanut Growers Association is nearly 75 years old. From the research I have done on the internet, I do believe we are the oldest association in North Carolina, like Growers Association.
Wow.
So we will be turning 75 in 2 years, and we are already putting together some plans for that and how we want to celebrate that longevity in existence. Currently, there are, so one of the other unique things about the North Carolina Peanut Growers Association is, I'm not going to say that we're the only, but we're one of very few of the boards associations, like a commodity group, that is 100% growers. So we don't have any of the allied sectors represented on our board. Our board is 100% growers. There are 35 peanut producing counties in North Carolina, and if your county on a 3-year average plants 1,000 acres or more of peanuts, then your county qualifies to have a seat on our board. So right now our board is 27, and the reason that is some of those counties, once you get above 8,000 acres in a particular county, you qualify for 2 board seats. So I have a handful of counties that have 2 board seats, but the majority is a single grower from that county. A grower can serve a 3-year term, and then at the end of those 3 years, if the nominating committee would so choose, they can be asked to serve a second, like a consecutive 3-year term, and then they have to step off for a year after that. That's a recent change that we just made to our bylaws that we really hope helps with some continuity. If anybody's listening who has served on a board, sometimes it might take you 3 years just to get the lay of the land under your feet.
Figure it out.
So it gives you an opportunity to continue to serve if you would like. We do have an exec, so we divide the state into regions, and each region has representation on the executive committee. So I have an executive committee of 9. So it's 4 officers and then 1 person from each of those regions, and then 1 at-large member. And that's who I really deal with, like, on a day-to-day basis. We meet monthly. Our executive committee does. And then within that, I have 4 officers, kind of typical of most commodity groups. Across the state of North Carolina, there are around 650 peanut producers total. in the state. And so I gave you a little
How many
data there
acres?
on
How many acres in production in North
Yeah.
Carolina?
I'd love to tell you the 2026 number, but USDA hasn't released it yet.
Okay.
We are on pins and needles. So I'm going to give you the 2025 number.
All right.
So last year's crop, we had just shy of 136,000 acres planted in the state. I can tell you that in the 5 years that I have been here, we've seen about a 5% increase each year in product and like what is planted into peanuts, and I can give you some reasoning on why that is, but I'm really hoping when these 2026 numbers come out that we level off a little bit. Supply and demand, it's a huge part of any commodity, right, that you're working with, and we really hit a surplus of peanuts across the nation after the 2025 crop, and there's some external factors to that we can talk a little bit more about, but we've been sitting around, like I said, 136,000 acres last year. I'll also just add that about 500 of those acres, or not of those, in addition to those, were for green peanuts, which is totally different. Those are your boiling peanuts, which we're getting to be about that time. People are probably starting to look for boiled. You're a little early here in North Carolina. We probably got about 4 more weeks before you really start seeing some green production. But green peanuts, if they are certified and harvested in that manner, they don't pay an assessment on those, and so I remove those from the data that I pull because it's not part of the budget that we have here at the Growers Association. So that's what a true boiled peanut is, a green peanut, which is an immature. It's not fully matured to the point that we would harvest them for what we call farmer stock, which is what funds the association.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun facts, little nuances about peanuts that a lot of people.
I'm writing some of them down.
Yeah, you're probably going to learn a few more before it's all done.
So tell us about the reasons why you think that peanut production's gone up in North Carolina.
Sure. Well, a huge reason is sweet potatoes. So there is a nematode in the sweet potato industry that is devastating. It's the guava root knot nematode. A lot of people in agriculture have heard about that particular nematode, and currently there's no chemical mediation for the guava root knot nematode. And so the best thing that is out there to help a farmer who may have that particular nematode in their soil is to plant peanuts, because we will help cleanse the soil. We will not 100% like completely wipe it out, but it certainly helps to protect. And
so they would rotate peanuts on sweet potato land. Okay.
Yes. So we've seen a big increase in acreage in sweet potato country in some areas, and a lot of growers who've just got into peanut production. We actually saw so the way that we run our data here, about every 2 years, we revisit that 650 number. And when we pulled it after the 2025 crop, we had added, you got to factor in, it's a rotational crop, and so some farmers may sit a year out, but I can safely say that we saw about 25 new growers here in North Carolina who we had no historical data on, so therefore a brand new peanut producer in the state. And if I were to really do some investigative data there, I'd probably find that the majority of those are sweet potato producers who've now added peanuts to their rotation.
So you can't place peanuts back to back. You have to rotate.
You should rotate, and you really shouldn't rotate us with soybeans because that's 2 legumes. We act very similarly in the soil. And so that's why you most commonly are going to see us rotated with cotton, corn, or sweet potatoes.
Wow. This is your Ag Risk Minute, brought to you by Snipes Insurance. Serve, grow, provide. 3 words that define agriculture, and 3 words that define their commitment to it. Snipes Insurance, protecting the people who keep America running. Tim, what are some things that our listeners should be considering with their farm coverage?
Hey Chad, great question. A farm changes every year. Your insurance program should too. Operations are changing constantly. Ask yourself, did you buy a new piece of equipment? Did you add any acreage? Did you build a new building? Did you start a side business? If you answered yes on that, you should probably review your policy to make sure that those exposures are covered.
So tell us about the cycle of the peanut, the season of it. What does that look
Yeah.
like?
Yeah. So peanuts take 140 days to mature. So they're planted late April, early May, and then you're harvesting them anywhere between late September, early October. If you're harvesting for green, you might be a little earlier than that, but that's not a massive part of peanut production in North Carolina. So that's kind of the timeline. I'll back up even a little further than that. So here's another fun fact about the peanut industry is that we are a contracted crop. So a farmer just doesn't wake up and say, hey, I think I'm going to add peanuts into what I plant this year. Whereas they can do that with a crop like corn or soy or cotton because they're going and purchasing that seed from a retailer and they're planting it because of how they marketed it. Peanuts, you sign a contract March, late February, early March every year with a sheller. And that's who you are contracting your tonnage with. So you're agreeing to produce so many tons for that particular sheller. And part of that contract is how you get your seed. So obviously, if you want to grow some peanuts in your garden, or you can pick up some seed at your local hardware store or off of Amazon, but for large row crop production, you're needing pallets of seed, right, in 50-pound bags. And so those are a part of the contracting process for peanuts. Very similar to swine or poultry production, right? Like where our whole system is probably mirrors that a lot more than it does like cotton or soybeans or corn.
Very interesting.
So yeah, you asked me about the timeline, especially when you look at the 2026 crop. For our growers, they sign contracts, let's say in March. Think about what happened to the cost of fuel between the time that they agreed to plant those peanuts.
Oh, yeah.
And so that always going to impact what type of profit they have. I get asked a lot, like, so how much does a person make off of, an acre of peanuts? I'm like, there are so many factors that go
depends.
into that. It depends. Like, I'm not dodging your question. It just really depends.
Yeah.
And for listeners that don't know, peanuts, the crop is under the ground, much
Yes.
like potatoes.
Yes. We actually have these cool grow bags that we use at the state fair if we go to like an elementary school or something that have little windows on them so that we can show people that the crop is actually under the ground. And one of my favorite things is, I love the state fair, but it's 10 days. Like if you got a booth out there, it is a commitment. But I kind of get my cup filled a little bit when at our booth, if you're just sitting in the back and you listen as people walk by, and the number of people who look at that grow bag and are like, they want to show their children, look, this is how a peanut grows. Or they stopped. I'll never forget, one lady stopped one year and she said, that's how they grow, like a carrot. And I thought, why was that so intrinsic to you to know that a carrot grew under the ground but not a peanut?
Yeah.
Like, it's just it's a huge part of educating people about peanut production is that they do grow under the ground. And so you had asked about timeline. So when I say you start harvesting, the first thing you do is you're inverting them. And then depending upon whether it can be anywhere from a day or two to maybe a week that you leave them inverted before you actually come back through with a harvester. So the harvesting process is not immediate necessarily.
Right.
And does North Carolina rank in the nation?
Yes, we sure do. So there are 13 peanut producing states, and North Carolina we've ranked after the 2024 crop. We were third in the nation. our 2025 crop, we fell to 4th in the nation for overall production. And so number 1 is Georgia. They produce the most peanuts, and then Alabama, and then North Carolina and Texas have been kind of flip-flopping. I think probably one of the most unique comments that I'll make about that is there are 4 different market types of peanuts that exist. So you've got a Virginia type peanut, a runner peanut, a Valencia peanut, and a Spanish peanut.
Okay.
North Carolina produces, like for 2026, we should be 100% Virginia type planted up here. Georgia grows the runner peanut. And so that is the peanut that's going into your peanut butter, some of your candies. The Virginia type peanut that we produce in North Carolina is what is you're going to crack open at a ball game. A lot of people call them ballpark peanuts. Or you're going to get them in a can in like a gourmet. That's what we call like a gourmet style. A lot of people get those cans at Christmas or give them as gifts or whatnot. And so we are the number 1 producer of the Virginia type peanut. And I can say that if you go to any major league ballpark in the country, there's a 99.9% chance if you buy a pack of peanuts, those came out of North Carolina dirt.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
So what is it about North Carolina dirt that makes them
It's good stuff.
special for that?
Yeah, it's good stuff, right, Chad? Yeah, it's good stuff. Everybody go eat a handful of dirt. So we have a more like loamy soil and sandy soil, which is what and if you look at the map of where peanuts are grown in North Carolina, it's primarily along that like I-95 corridor, right? And so it grows the Virginia type peanut better from a standpoint of like allowing that kernel, that larger kernel to grow here. You can grow runners. We've had up to 2% of our state's production in runner type peanuts. And we've seen some introduction of the Valencia peanut being grown here as well. Again, shellers are contracting these to be grown. And so the thing about the Valencia is we're a little bit too humid for the Valencia market type. That market type's primarily grown in Texas and New Mexico. But the Virginia type can thrive here in the humidity that we have. And so that factors into it as well.
And we've been dry this year, Ashley. How's that impacted peanuts?
You know, at the time that it hit, like the drought that we were in, was at a time when peanuts were, they could survive through that, right? They are fairly drought tolerant. I'm not going to say they can, survive without any water at all, but compared to some other crops like corn, it just hit us at the right point in the growing cycle that they were able to do pretty well through that. And I think the recent rains that we've gotten, most of the crop across the state looks really good from the reports that I've gotten. But when you're growing something that's producing its fruit underground, it's really hard to get a good, for me to tell you today on August the 4th that we're going to have a bumper crop, you just don't know yet, right? Because you don't know till you dig them up.
Yeah. Well, look, I want to go back. You said something a while ago about supply and demand, and you kind of were hoping 2026 leveled off. Why?
So I actually wrote an article about this, and it was part of my comments to the growers last year at our annual meeting. So according to the National Peanut Board, which is our national checkoff that we have, and some research that they've done, the average person consumes 7.2 pounds of peanuts in a year. Now, anytime I share that fact, always somebody's going to say, oh, I eat way more than that. Like the guy who sits in his recliner and cracks open peanuts like during the nightly news or something. But on average, per capita across the country, that's about how many pounds that the average person eats. So if you look at our 2025 crop, and if we were on track, so last year we averaged around 4,000 pounds to the acre. So what we were projected to produce based on what we had planted last year, I ran an analogy of NC State, UNC, Duke, ECU, Appalachian, Western Carolina, and Wake Forest. And I looked up the seating capacity in all those stadiums and how many home games are played in those stadiums. We produced enough peanuts just in 2025 alone. How many seasons do you think we could feed if every person at those 7 stadiums, sell out crowds every home game, if every person was doing their part and eating 7.2 pounds of peanuts? How much do you think we grew?
Oh man, how many seasons do you think it would take to feed that?
Not games, seasons.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say 3.
I'm gonna say 2.5.
40.
No
Whoa.
kidding.
Yep, that's just off of North Carolina's crop alone.
We were way off, Marissa.
We were way.
No, I'm not good at math.
And so when I gave that, and I threw in some other analogies when I was giving that speech at our annual meeting, and like to countries, right? Like it was a comparative to if every person in a particular country ate that much in like a year, how many years do you think? Anyway, so we definitely are producing a lot of these ballpark gourmet Virginia type peanuts. Now it's really hard because of how our marketing works and the shellers and the different avenues that peanuts take. It's hard for me to tell you that we used up all the Virginia type, right? Like to differentiate, because the data is aggregated between runners, Spanish, Valencia, Virginia. So it's kind of hard to extract out of what exists data-wise for me to tell you if that was way too much Virginias for what the market is consuming. But the other thing that hit us in 2025, and this is a hypothesis that myself and a lot of my peers in the peanut industry have, and we're actually just launching a study to figure out exactly if this is what is going on. At the same time that we had such high acreage and a pretty good crop year, demand started really tanking. And we're trying to figure out what that is. The hypothesis is the GLP-1 medications, which I think is a huge topic to unpack in all of agriculture. So for some industries like pork, Chad and I were talking about the pork industry. I read an article the other day that the dairy industry, like, they believe that the GLP-1 is really helping them because the consumer is looking for that protein.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately, like peanuts, we are a great source of protein across the nut sector and as far as snacking goes. But people are not turning to that's one of the things they're cutting out if they're on a GLP-1 medication is the snacking. And so they're not reaching for convenience foods, but they're not necessarily reaching for peanuts, and definitely not peanut butter. I think it's hurt peanut butter a little more than it would like your snacking peanut, like what we produce. But the industry as a whole, so this is your shellers, your manufacturers, your growers association, they're all coming together to launch a demand study over the next year to really dig into the data that's out there and find out like if it is in fact the GLP-1s that are hurting us. Obviously it's going to hurt the candy side of peanuts. You know, there's peanut M&Ms, there's peanuts and Snickers, there's a Munch bar that's made almost exclusively with Spanish type peanuts, and so those categories are taking a hit, but it's all about educating that consumer, and especially if they're taking that medication and they're working with a nutritionist, that peanuts really are a great source for you to get protein, especially maybe if you're doing a plant-based diet as well. We're a huge part of the protein that comes in for plant-based consumers, and we're also, we help with, the Perfectly Powerful Peanut has a lot of, we're full of vitamins and minerals that your body needs and a lot of other things. But that's my really long answer to your question about, I'm hoping that the acres kind of level off.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's a interesting part of the peanut industry for sure.
Yeah. And so tell me, in your job or maybe in the association's job, how much do you guys have to market peanut consumption, right?
Yeah, so that's so at the state association level, I would say that our budget is kind of in 3 different categories. One of those is research. We fund a ton of research with our partners at NC State primarily on how can a farmer grow the peanut of tomorrow. And we also fund breeding. So a lot of people don't know that about peanuts, is that they are still publicly bred. So whereas like cotton, corn, soy, the companies are creating that next generation of seed, and it's going to have traits in it that are unique to that particular seed company. Whereas peanuts, sweet potatoes, blueberries, tomatoes, watermelon, those are some of your primary crops that have people who are at a public institution in a breeding program producing that next generation of seed. So they don't have the traits that are owned by a company. They're owned by the people funding, like the university, the public university. So we a large portion of that research budget does go to the peanut breeding program at NC State University. But then also we have an agronomist, a pathologist, an entomologist who are all doing research for our farmers. So that's a third of our budget. I'd say the other third really goes to like a general operations of the office, and then the last third goes to what we call promotions, or education and advocacy of the peanut industry. And we actually did a strategic plan in the last 2 years as an association to give what I call some guardrails to what those promotions look like. So Marissa, your question was, how much are we having to promote peanut consumption? And the National Peanut Board really does a great job at promoting consumption and also tackling the peanut allergy issue that we have in our industry. And so they do a lot to get to your day-to-day consumer, your mom who's pushing the grocery cart down the aisle, or the GLP-1 user, to get them thinking about peanuts. So as a state association, as a result of that strategic plan, we've put a lot of our promotional efforts into helping that consumer identify their peanut farmer. And so more so promoting the occupation of being a peanut farmer and having some of that consumer trust with the person who grew your peanuts and understanding the supply chain that peanuts flow through. Peanut farmers, they don't set up roadside stands and market like in an old McDonald way, right? Like that crop's going through a sheller to get to the end consumer, and then after the sheller to a manufacturer, and so on. And so we just are focusing more of our promotional efforts around putting the face behind who is the peanut farmer, and that North Carolina grows peanuts, and we're third in the nation, and we grow. If you go to a baseball game and crack open a peanut, it came out of our fields. So that's really where we're focusing our promotional efforts.
Let's North Carolina peanut pride is what I'm hearing.
Yes, absolutely. We've got a lot of people see our little peanut bags that we give out. It's got the North Carolina flag on it. We've got some great stickers that are our lapel pin is the North Carolina flag in the shape of a peanut. And so I think we've been doing a great job, and we've got even bigger plans for the future to do some of that North Carolina peanut pride.
That's awesome.
That's
exciting.
Consumers, they want to know where their food comes from. What do you wish that they knew about peanut farming and about peanuts, Ashley? If you could just one thing.
I think if I had to say one thing, just is that, I think there's a lot of misinformation that the consumer has about farming across the board. And I just wish that they knew that these guys and gals who are out here growing their peanuts are growing a safe crop and are putting so much effort into, their own families eat. Their children eat them right out of the field, right? Like some of them eat them right out of the field. They are the first environmentalists, like they had to be in order to be, or we wouldn't have farming, right? And so I just wish that the consumer knew when they grabbed that jar of peanut butter or they grabbed that bag of in-shell peanuts at a Braves game, that there is a person and a family behind that product who put blood, sweat, and tears into growing that crop, and maybe took a loss even, depending upon the year, just to make sure that they could have that snack that they're eating on.
That's an important message, and it's across commodity groups. We're the same way in pork. I know everybody else is. Farmers are not trying to kill you people.
No, farmers are, they are. We actually did an ad in our state magazine about all the different hats that a farmer wears.
Yeah.
And, they have to be an accountant, they have to be a mechanic, but the first hat they put on every day is the one to protect the environment, because if they don't, they won't have that land to grow the next year's crop on.
Yeah.
So
Wow. This is a lot.
I often tell people that there's a lot of layers to peanuts.
Yeah.
You think about, I think it's in Shrek, right? An onion has a lot of layers or something. We don't have all those layers like an onion does, but not figuratively, or literally, but figuratively. We absolutely, there's a lot of layers to our sector of the industry.
So when you go home and you sit at dinner with your husband, are peanuts and cotton off the table, or is that all that y'all talk about?
I would love to tell you that it's off the table, but it is all we have to talk about. Family stuff or whatnot, but it is certainly, we see so many of the same people in our jobs, but it's two very different occupations. He is a PhD level scientist. He does these on-farm variety trials. He is the statistician. I am more the marketing education type person, but we're at the end of the day, we're working for the same people. And I think we both, and even more ironically, to go full circle in this story, my husband grew up on a peanut farm. His granddaddy was a very successful peanut farmer, a very well-known peanut farmer in North Carolina. And I grew up not necessarily in cotton, but both my grandparents picked cotton. And so my grandmother made my brother and I do it for a day just because she wanted us to experience. And I had a small cotton gin in my hometown that I toured every year. And so it's just ironic that we kind of flip-flopped in that way. But he certainly, and that's one of the things I think when I think about my peers in the peanut world, I tend to lean a little heavier on the research kind of stuff because I live with one, And so I've a lot of the projects that I've kind of taken on since being in this job do kind of tilt to the research side. I always go to our big research meeting that we have in the peanut industry, but I certainly see the value in extension and research in that capacity to help the farmer.
Yeah.
So we talk about it a lot, and he would certainly. We try to come up with other stuff. We really do, but all roads lead back to cotton and peanuts.
Okay. That's awesome.
It just shows you that you're passionate through and through.
That's right.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I've got a whole page of notes right here. It's been fascinating talking with you today, Ashley, getting to know more about you personally, and obviously about the peanuts. It's been a great episode. What do you think, Marissa?
Yeah.
I've loved it.
Yeah.
I've always thought that peanuts are fascinating, and so this
Ashley proved it.
Yeah. That's great. I have often been accused of being very passionate and very enthusiastic about the industry. I've been like that in every job that I've ever had, and it just kind of comes naturally. But I think this has been a great fit for me to be in this role.
Her Ashley's business card is a pack of peanuts, isn't it?
It is. Well, I do have legitimate business cards, but this is the best business card that I have. And just in short 5 years, I can tell you so many stories of being in a statewide meeting or a national meeting or meeting with a congressional leader and pulling the peanuts out of my purse and being the hero of the day, right, of having the snacks or whatnot. So I am very fortunate. I give my good friend Michelle a hard time because her sweet potato chips are not quite as portable as the peanuts are, that they got a little bit more breakability. But if you catch me out and about and I don't have a pack of peanuts on me to hand to somebody, that's a problem. So I don't think I've been caught too many times without a pack.
I'm gonna have to talk to Roy Lee about getting some little bacon things to put in his coat.
Yeah, see if he'll carry around those. Ironically, Roy Lee has been getting boxes of these from me to have in his office.
Okay.
And if you want to make a full connection here to swine and the peanut industry, another fun fact for you is every part of the peanut is used. That's one of the great facts about our crop is that the vines are either left in the field to add nutrients, nitrogen back to the soil, or they're baled for hay that go into a lot of cattle feed or whatnot. But the hulls, so for peanuts that go through the process of being shelled, so not what you're going to get at a ballpark and crack open, but at a shelling plant, that's part of their remnants that they have left over is like the hulls, right? Smithfield Foods actually purchases nearly all the peanut hulls from shellers on the eastern, well, not all the way down to Georgia because they got some other markets down there, but through what we call the Virginia, Carolina region. Smithfield purchases those and then they mix them into what they call cookie dough. Which is not cookie dough. It is remnants from like bakeries and whatnot to feed back to swine. So
that's awesome.
That's a full circle how we use every part of the peanut.
That is amazing.
And we support pigs and sweet potatoes are two of the things that are synonymous when you think about North Carolina agriculture.
Yeah.
So peanuts are just pouring into both of those crops. We help with the nematode, and we can be animal feed for our hog friends.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's been great having you on our podcast today. I just enjoy seeing your passion for your industry, for peanuts, and we appreciate the hard work that you do. So thank you for being a part of Raised on the Farm podcast.
You are welcome. Eat more nutritious and flavorful North Carolina peanuts.
Yep. We had PBJs at my house today, so.
Good job. Good job. Some of our crop does, I typically say that like the Georgia crop, the runners, is what's going into peanuts. But if we have splits or halves in the shelling, they will certainly blend a Virginia type peanut into that peanut butter. So absolutely eat more peanut butter too.
Yeah. Thanks, Ashley.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for spending time with us on Raised on the Farm podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Instagram. And if you got a question or a topic you want us to dig into, let us know. We want to hear from you. Join the conversation. Thanks for joining us on another episode of Raised on the Farm podcast. Remember to subscribe and follow us on Instagram. Have a question or a topic idea? Let us know and join the conversation. We'll see you next time.